So the theme of today's conference is power, which ties in very well to what we teach of vocal awareness, because we're often speaking about vocal power. In fact, Arthur Samuel Joseph, the creator and founder of vocal awareness, often says, voice is power. So what does that mean? Are we talking about a big, loud, presentational sound? No. Clearly, we do want our sound to be present and resonant, but for me, a vocal power means that we are also coming across as authentic, trustworthy, and have integrity. Your voice reflects your identity. It reveals everything about who you are and how you show up in the world. The reality is that an opinion is created in 3 seconds, and how we walk into a room matters. Because every public encounter is a performance. Someone is listening. Someone is watching. Vocal awareness isn't speech class. Vocal awareness is about vocal power and communication mastery. How many of you like or even love the sound of your own voice? Awesome. So some of you do. But for me, despite 20 years of singing lessons, I had never consciously considered my speaking voice. And if I had considered it, I would have realized that I didn't actually like my voice. For most of us, speech is habit. So then, what is vocal power? What is communication mastery? In vocal awareness, we treat communication as an artist or athlete treats their art or sport. It's the ubiquitous 10,000 hours. By the time an athlete reaches the Olympics, their body reacts to stimulus, even to an anxiety, as it has been trained to respond, with focus and precision. But this is not the case for us in our daily conversation, whether personal or professional. We don't usually think about our voices. We just speak. We do a PowerPoint presentation, we put the slides up, we may not have rehearsed it, we may not have written an opening paragraph or a close. We don't even usually think in those terms. We rush to a meeting having just finished another meeting, or maybe the notes for the meeting you're about to have, or a conference call, and we're on. Who thinks about a breath? In vocal awareness, we do, and that is powerful. Let us begin our exploring vocal awareness using this phrase, I am an extraordinary person and I do extraordinary things. So, let's everyone just say that phrase once. And this is the beginning of our exploration of voice. So I'll just count you in so we can kind of do it as a group. 3, 2, 1.
I am an extraordinary person and I do extraordinary things.
And now we're going to take our hands and just cup behind our ears. And we're going to speak it one more time, because what that does is it actually helps us to hear what's happening on the outside. It helps us to hear what other people are hearing. So again. So that's going to be our before picture. And we're going to be saying this phrase a number of times using quite a few different exercises. And by the end, we'll have our after picture for this session today. So I do want to point out that I'm going to go through quite a few different vocal awareness exercises, and we're just going to be touching the surface. What I'm hoping for is that each of you finds maybe one thing that you can take home and practice. As I was saying in the beginning, vocal awareness is about mastery. It's therefore about practice, just like it would be for an artist or an athlete. So the first concept is something we call stature. many of you will have been told at some point in your life that posture is important, that maybe sitting or standing up straight. So let's everyone just put yourself in what you consider to be good posture. And just see what that feels like. Notice whether or not you are holding your breath, for example. And now relax. And now, instead of putting yourself into a good posture, let's consider the word stature. So the first thing is I want you to imagine that a thread is very gently pulling you up. And part of what that does is it helps you to realize that you don't have to hold yourself in some kind of good posture, that in fact there can be this connection that helps you. But vocal awareness is not simply physical. It's not simply mechanical. There's always an integration of mind, body, and spirit. And so now, as part of your understanding of the concept of stature, connect into that part of you that knows, in fact, that you are extraordinary, that you are special. So there's now this physical component and this internal component. And cup your ears. And again, feeling that thread, recognizing that you are a champion. Read the sentence.
I am an extraordinary person, and I do extraordinary things.
Now, normally, in a longer session, I would really like to engage with you to have a sense of your experience. In this session, I'd like you to at least reflect as we go through them whether or not you're noticing any difference. So from stature, we're going to move on to breath. And to start, let us just take a big breath, because all of you at some point have probably been told, especially if you ever sang in a choir, if you ever took a speech class, that breathing is important. So take a big breath as you would imagine you should take before you speak. And everyone in your own time, big breath. And then let that go and just sort of see how that feels. Now, feel yourself again in stature. And simply allow a breath. Notice how the room immediately somehow got quieter or stiller, that the energy changed. There's something about simply allowing the breath. It does not mean that it's going to be more shallow. It means there's a letting go connected to it. So now, in addition to allowing the breath, let that breath be slow and silent and conscious. And I'm going to help you and we'll all breathe together. In stature. And in 3, 2, 1. And now we're going to add one more thing. It may seem a little frou-frou, but it makes a difference. And that is to imbue this breath with the quality of love. So we're allowing a slow, silent, conscious, loving breath. And we'll all do that together in 3, 2, 1. And again, just feel the energy in the room and imagine the difference that you might experience in if always as you're communicating, you're allowing that kind of breath. So we're going to get another picture with your hands cupped, feeling the thread pulling you up into stature, allowing a slow, silent, conscious, loving breath with me in 3, 2, 1.
I am an extraordinary person, and I do extraordinary things.
Great. Yes, you are. there. We had in a comment that he is, and maybe some of you are starting to believe this sentence a little bit more as we connect in with these tools that will help you to connect to the truth of this statement. We are, all of us are extraordinary, and that is true. So now we're going to get into an actual vocalizing exercise. Sometimes that raises anxiety in some people, and that's okay. It's just a natural part of trying something new, and because, as I said earlier, our voices are our identity. We're so used to speaking in a habitual way that connecting into new possibility can sometimes be a little scary. So all we're going to do is a hum. A hum, everybody knows how to, that's what we're going to do. Only we're going to do it in stature, and we're going to do it with a conscious, loving breath. And we're going to slide. We're going to slide down. And our goal is to find what we call in vocal awareness the hub of our voice. Many of you are speaking higher, at a higher pitch level than is really optimal for each of you individually. We all have an optimal hub of our voice that is far more powerful and more integrated than we realize. Especially, and I was thinking of this as I was listening to the presenters, especially for those of us who are brilliant, highly intelligent people. There's a tendency to speak from here up. But we are integrated, holistic beings, and using the whole of yourself in your speaking and in your communicating will bring out actually more of who you are. So again, it's going to be a hum. And we'll do it one more time in stature, remembering that you're extraordinary. Everyone cupping your ears. Oh, actually, no, we'll wait for that. Don't cup your ears because we're just going to hum. We're going to do one more time with stature. I'll lead you in with the breath, and we're going to hum. In 3, 2, 1. And now we're going to cup our ears. And stature, allowing a loving breath in 3, 2, 1. And you know what? I didn't set you up. We're going to be doing this phrase. We're going to do the phrase again. I'm going to set you up one more time with the hum. I was thinking about what time it is. Will someone tell me? 11:23. Awesome. And that's what happens when we get distracted by some kind of internal dialogue that's not relevant to the moment. In stature, we're going to hum one more time. No hands yet. We're going to do our humming. And in 3, 2, 1. Now we're going to cover our ears and we're going to speak our phrase again. And stature and loving breath in 3, 2, 1. And I don't know if you're starting to hear a difference, but I am. It's starting to get a lot more resonant. There are some more seats if you wanted to come in. There's some over here. So in order to enhance that resonance even more, we're going to take our fingernail and place it right on the edge between our lips and our skin. And we're going to think of that as the focal point, the focus. It's like the sweet spot. If any of you have played tennis or golf, there's just this optimal spot where the racket hits the ball, and that is our focal point. And so this is going to be the focus of where we want the sound to leave our body. At the same time, we're going to remember that sound travels. that voice has energy, and we're going to think of the sense of our energy and of our sound actually soaring through space. So we're going to do it again, first on the hum, thinking of the what we call the edge and the arc of sound. So please put your fingernail there on the edge, and you're feeling yourself in stature. And we're just going to do our hum in 3, 2, 1. And I heard more resonance again in the sound. Now, we're going to hum one more time, and the hub of the voice is usually at the bottom pitch of your slide. So you want to pick up the phrase right where you get off of your hum. Does that make sense? Okay.
Do you want us to say the phrase when you finish?
I want you to, let's say this time everybody knows that immediately after our hum, we're going to cup our ears, I'm going to lead you in the breath, and we're going to say the sound. Thank you. Because that way you'll be even more set up with your hum. All right, so we're in stature, humming first. Fingernail on the edge. And 3, 2, 1. Cupping your ears in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. I'm really starting to believe it. So the last thing I'm going to introduce today is something in vocal awareness we call visceral language. We make voice visual. So particularly as I just said voice, I saw that V underlined because I enjoy that. I enjoy voice and visual. And I saw visual under the whole word underlined. So without going into all the details of it, I'm just going to make some changes to this copy. And I'd like your unconscious mind as you speak to just absorb it. So everything in vocal awareness is cumulative and builds upon itself. Can everyone see? If you can't see in the back, please feel free to stand up. And so we're going to be in stature. And we're going to cup our ears. Speaking from wherever you remember that hub of your voice feeling and residing. I'm going to lead you in, and you're going to read it as written. In 3, loving 2, and 1. Good. So I heard some resonating on the Z at the end. A lot of the times we're just not conscious about all of the S's that actually sound like Z's. And I heard some emphasis on I am an extraordinary person. That really shifts things when you recognize the truth of that. So for our after picture, we're going to just put everything together. In stature, we're going to run through the hub of the voice one more time. We're going to do our hum again. So fingernail on the edge, remembering that the energy of the sound is going to soar. The breath is loving and conscious, and when we get to the bottom of the hum, I'll breathe you in again, ears cupped, and we'll do our phrase. So we're going to do the hum first in 3, loving 2, and 1. And now cupping your ears in 3, 2, 1.
I am an extraordinary person, and I do extraordinary things.
Fantastic. that is your after picture from having gone through a number of these exercises in a very short period of time. So, as I said at the beginning, it's so important to remember that like with the arts or athletics, when we're talking about communication mastery, we're talking about practice. When somebody begins to learn a new skill, it does not always feel natural. And in fact, when doing things like this, it often brings up some anxiety. And we really feel like we're somehow not being real anymore, not being natural, because speech is habit. We're so used to rushing. We're so used to talking higher and rushing that we think that's normal. But it doesn't have to be your normal. Remember that in vocal awareness, we are not trying to make you into something that you are not. We are always and only wanting to bring out who you are truly capable of being. And for me, that is vocal power. Thank you.